2026 sees me travel the length and breadth of England to run a marathon per week in each of its 39 historic counties. Why? To raise funds for Tommy's, the charity that does incredible work to try to end the heartbreak of baby loss. I will be joined each week by someone who has their own story of loss, their own rollercoaster journey, their own reason to be there. This podcast shares those stories in the hope that they can bring awareness to an often undiscussed topic and even, perhaps, a flicker of light in someone's darkness. You can follow the runs, the stories, and donate to the cause at marathonsformiracles.com. Enjoy. Hello, welcome to week 34 of Marathons for Miracles. I've been saying it for a few weeks now that everyone keeps telling me we're nearly done, and I've been resisting the temptation. And I think once we've got this next weekend out of the way, I will give in to the temptation because we'll only have 5 to go, which feels like a very nice number, and B, we've got quite a big weekend this weekend, big day out in the lakes, which we will learn more about later. But I think once Northumberland, I mentioned, was a big hurdle because of the travelling. Westmorland this weekend, big day out. More news to come. No spoilers. Work at the weekend was great. A hot day. We weren't expecting it to be quite as warm, but we tickled on quite nicely for the first couple of hours, and then it sort of crept up on us at 11, 12 o'clock. And the last bit was a bit of a shift, but as I said on Instagram over the weekend, massive congratulations to Rosie. Running your first marathon at 64 in support of your daughter is pretty cool. So wasn't smooth sailing, but she really got her head down and got on with it, and really very impressive effort. So yeah, well done Team Suffolk. It was very well organised as well. Lovely weekends, lots of nice people around. So really very enjoyable. Speaking of nice people, we're joined this evening by Joe and Flo, who will be doing lots of talking, and also, for those on the video, Rory, who will not be doing much talking. Hopefully we'll be making no noise whatsoever, but we'll see.
He's going to be the loudest person here on the choir force, yeah.
Flo and Joe are not strangers to me, good friends. Amy and Flo were at university together, sort of. And yeah, we've known them for years. So we're one of the early calls, actually, for this. Both because of their experiences, which we're about to go into, but also because Joe really likes running up hills, which we will also go into at some point. So welcome to the podcast, and thanks very much for joining us and for your support throughout the challenge so far from
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for doing it.
Not at all. Lots to talk about. So we'll dive in and ask what it is that led you two to being involved with Marathons for Miracles and with Tommy's and their cause.
There's a few reasons. One, there's obviously our own personal reasons, and then there's obviously friends being heavily involved in the project and also being heavily affected by all things to do with Tommy's and pregnancy and birth and post-birth and all that sort of stuff. So for our reasons, as in mine of those reasons, is we got 2 kids. Rory, you can hear, is our second. Our first, Lockie, we had a really rough time, basically. The actual birth itself took 4 days? 4 days in hospital of labour.
76-hour labour.
76-hour labour. And then
76.
Yeah, with lots of interventions and complications and various traumatic bits, but which I'm sure we'll get into along the way, which understandably caused pretty severe mental trauma for Flo, resulting in Flo having postnatal depression and PTSD, which took a long time to get picked up, recognised, acknowledged, and treated, which resulted in a pretty bumpy, I guess, year and a half, at least, year and a half. Bumpy is a very diplomatic way of putting it.
Diplomatic way of putting it.
Yeah, so our experience with these sorts of subjects is probably a bit more one-sided, I guess, than previous guests and other people you've been running with, because it was very much, to put it bluntly, I didn't have postnatal depression and PTSD. I haven't lost anything, gained anything. My wife had a horrendous time, both in birth, post birth, and for the following, 3 years if you include the build up to Rory. So Rory's 3 months old, nearly 3 months old, born in May. And then obviously pregnancy brings up so much to do with pregnancy and birth.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we're super fortunate in that we've not experienced loss. So we're not able to talk about that from a personal perspective because so many friends have been affected by it. Both early, late stage, full term. I don't think we really realised that Tommy's was kind of opening up these sorts of avenues into a lot of the stuff around trauma and postnatal and how these things can affect women, men, families. I think an important point to make is that you don't have to have an event in your pregnancy, birth, postnatal experience that other people identify as traumatic for you to be diagnosed with birth trauma. A loss is a traumatic event and can cause serious mental health issues in the whole family. But even a relatively straightforward pregnancy can lead to members of a family walking away with pretty severe mental consequences. One thing that I just taught when I was going through therapy afterwards, so if 2 people went through the same event, the way that someone's brain is wired could be one person to walk away with PTSD, trauma, psychosis, another person not to. And so a little bit is left of the door. Your experience obviously has an impact on it, but some of it is how your brain is wired, which can be rough when you're like, well, there was no reason for it. So yeah, I'd say I had a pretty straightforward pregnancy, just the usual sickness until midway through. No complications, nothing dramatic. Actually went into spontaneous labour on my due date after going for a dip in the North Sea. So Joe banned me from wild swimming during my...
Right. Yeah. So yeah.
And I started having contractions pretty much half an hour after that.
Yeah.
I spent... Another complication is I had been diagnosed having strep B, which can be a really nasty infection for newborns to get. So I was told quite early that the recommendation would be to go in and have antibiotic drip every 4 hours during labour to make sure nothing got past the baby. So basically I had contractions every 10 minutes at home all night. Went in the next morning. They said, you want something, so I go home. Went in the next morning, so the Saturday morning, after going to labour on the Thursday. They went, it's still really early, but let's get you in and start the strip. Get onto the ward, into the labour suite, and the midwife looking after me was like, well, why are you here? Because you shouldn't be here, you're not far enough along. I didn't know because it's needed. And I think that sort of started the chain of lots of instances of us not feeling like we were being cared for to like the best standard, because there was lots of discrepancies in whether people thought we should be there, we shouldn't be there, where we should be. Very busy, they didn't really want us in the labour centre, they wanted us on the labour wards.
Very much people like a nuisance.
Yeah, we were sort of treated like a nuisance, like you shouldn't be here, we don't want you here. Contractions always slow down every time someone came in and touched my bump to make sure we were having contractions, and it just anyway. They wouldn't let me have any pain relief because I wasn't far enough along, like not even any gas and air. This was after nearly 3 nights of being in labour. So I had a morphine injection on the 3rd night, which Joe remembers did give me some respite, but for me it was something, I just have weird memories of that.
Yeah.
Being really out of control of what's happening to me. And then after that, they let me have some gas and air. Following morning about 10 o'clock, broke my waters, and there was meconium, so then it's like, Russ, get you up on the ward, oxytocin drip.
Did you say they broke your waters? Okay.
Yeah. Which is also meant to be quite a smooth process, and it wasn't. It was a real invasive, long procedure, and it's not meant to be.
No, Amy had that.
It's horrible.
It took them ages.
Yeah. And we have the same, and the longer it goes on, the more stress you're getting, the more...
At the best of times, let alone when you've been labouring for 3 days and you're knackered and you're uncomfortable and you're...
Yeah. I mean, I hadn't slept for 3 days by this point. So we were sort of rushed up to the labour ward, the proper labour ward, and at that point had an epidural. The best person involved in my care was that anaesthetist, who was a mum of 3 and was like, "Oh, I can't believe you've made it this long without having an epidural. Well done." Why she couldn't have stayed around longer, I don't know. I was like, "Hold my hand longer." Had some rest, had a really nice midwife throughout the day, had a very kind of to the point consultant who kept coming in and doing examinations, and it was a really regular thing. And, "Oh, well done, you've got 10 centimeters, but I just need to go and check with someone if we can start pushing." And it was and at that point it was a shift handover. The control of the whole situation was completely taken out of our hands. There was no decision making on when to start anything happening. It was determined when the shift handover and the charge midwife said that we could. A midwife came in who we'd not met previously. She called me Joe's name throughout the whole delivery. You'll know this as a first-time parent. You've got absolutely no idea what's going on. She had Joe manoeuvring my body into all types of positions. She made an error with my epidural, so it was meant to be turned down so I could feel what's going on. She pushed the boost button, it got turned up, and then kept walking away to write notes because she was by herself and there should have been 2 of them in the room. So I was sort of left going, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. I can't feel anything. You know, when am I supposed to be doing this? Which resulted in a Bonteuse delivery, a episiotomy, lots of people in the room, baby's heart rate dropping, my blood pressure spiraling, Joe saying, "I really hope you can't see that table because there's so much blood on it." And I think all of those things, when you add them together, it just sounds like just a bad birth story. But the sense of lack of control just got me.
It was myriad factors that then were out of nowhere for us, seemingly really accelerated. You know, with going into labour early, with the pain relief stuff, with the strep B stuff, with the shift handovers, with the morphine, with all of it. It was myriad factors. And then all of a sudden it went from 0 to 100. And a team of God knows how many people in white coats and masks turned up with big surgical gloves on and all the tools and bits and bobs you can imagine. Wheeled the table in, ratcheted blows later. It's like, right, okay, we are now we're passengers here. And then it started getting really escalated, didn't it?
Yeah.
Basically. Which, to be honest, the baby accelerated things for a reason. You know, they didn't do it because they felt like it. You know, they obviously did it because they felt that there was significant medical grounds to escalate things and to get Lockie out of there. If they did, and it resulted in a happy, healthy baby boy, but it was at 0 to 100 after 4 days. And by that point, we were just mental. Well,
Yeah. Well,
No, like I'll allow that comment, Joe. It's a big part of what we talk about. I know there's no comparison in some ways. You've been in hospital for 4 days. You haven't slept very much. You know.
Yeah.
There's a lot of.
We were just mentally cooked, basically. We were mentally empty, you know.
Yeah.
And then it was all sort of, taken out of our hands and cracked on. Really.
And then we had a pretty difficult first couple of weeks with just a difficult starting to a breastfeeding journey.
Well, I guess the immediate thing that followed within, I don't know how long it was, just 20 minutes.
I don't remember.
Just like dragged Flo out of bed, got her stood up, and like bathed her down like something out of a prison documentary, you know, in terms of like sponge bath and stuff. And then it was like, right, you back into bed. So by this point, it was getting on late at night, wasn't it? 10, 11 o'clock.
He was born at times. This was like midnight, 1 o'clock.
Yeah, right. And then they turned to me and were like, right, well, you can't stay. So Flo's like on a different planet, basically. Babe in arms, you know, pretty graphic surgical scene in the room. And it's like, right, you need to go home, Flo, you're off to the ward. Tell me how you breastfeed, sort of thing. It was, right, you know, it's not a great, you're chasing yourself already, you know, in terms of trying to have a positive experience and trying to get off to a good start as parents and get your head around what's going on and try and get on with being good providers and all the rest of it.
Mm.
You're still trying to figure out what happened in the previous room, let alone
Yeah.
breastfeeding and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
So then I went home and then night of hospital, didn't we?
Yeah, I think I stayed in for a couple of nights and then got home. And then, yeah, difficult breastfeeding. We got they do the percentage weight loss and everything's very arbitrary and you hit certain numbers and you have to have certain things happen and you put on a feeding plan. But no one ever said, give your baby some formula. They just like, keep breastfeeding. Then we got re-hospitalized for Lockie being severely dehydrated and having jaundice. And I was checked up on every 3 hours by a doctor. Came on round and said, have you fed the baby? How much? Why haven't you given him the whole bottle? You need to be forcing it down him. Baby's spewing it up because he was 9 days old. And so it was just like this myriad of things as a result. And then so many women will feel this. As I didn't feel like that I was keeping that baby alive because somebody else was going to get me in trouble if that baby died. I didn't feel any love. I didn't feel any warmth. I was going through the motions to keep myself out of trouble.
And everything was numbers, wasn't it? Like the midwives would come round and it's like, right, we've lost X grams. Everything's fine. They come over the next day, we've lost X plus 1. You two need to put the baby in back in hospital. But right, okay. Can they, granted, can they do a bit of subjectivity? Can they do a bit of talking to us? Can they do a bit of explaining? And they would just do everything to avoid saying, get that baby a bottle of formula. And it's in hindsight, what the formula and would have would have had an entirely different
experience.
Yeah.
So basically, all of that stuff.
On that quickly, I mean, it's not what we focus on, but whilst we're here, you've just been labouring for 4 days and had a 2-day recovery in hospital. But also, Lockie's just been labouring for 4 days. Yeah. He's brand new in the world, and he has spent his arrival party getting squashed against your pelvis for 4 days, like putting it bluntly.
No wonder there was no milk.
He's going to take a few days to figure out what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
What's this thing that you're wafting in my face? What am I supposed to do with that?
Yeah. And there's no surprise there was no milk because, as we all know, adrenaline causes your body to do all these things that's not supposed to happen during birth.
Yeah.
But also, Lockie was dehydrated to the point where he physically couldn't make noise. So he's got his mouth open, he's trying to scream, and
nothing's coming out.
There's absolutely no noise, which again, you're looking at as new parents, and it's just horrendous, And then it was back into hospital, put him in the greenhouse for the jaundice, which is actually very straightforward, isn't it? And then it was at the point we got handed over from midwife to health visitor that things changed. So the health visitor came round and was like, I could not give a monkey how you feed that baby. Get whatever you need to into that baby.
Yeah, which is what we needed to hear at that point.
Game changer, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think she started, I don't know if you have this, but postnatally you get these questionnaires sort of that you need. And I just had this intense feeling of numbness. Everyone says, oh, you can't because you have this lovely baby at the end. And I remember them putting Lockie on me and me going, I have no feeling. Nothing is coming here. And then looking down at him when he was 10, 11, 12 years old going, you just made the worst mistake about that. We should never have done this. I want to go back. I don't want to do this. This is not what I want from life. A mixture of the long delivery events that led to kind of diagnosis of postnatal depression and trauma, the lack of sleep, everything was just challenging. And the health visitor started going on. Your mood's not great. You should probably think about some support. And I was saying, it's probably just baby blues. It'll pass. It's fine. And then at sort of 5-6 months, no, actually, it wasn't even that long. It was probably 3 or 4 months. Lockie was still really small. I had a couple of really scary episodes, like mental episodes. I don't even know if I've told your wife this, but I self-harmed after Lockie was born. I just thought the world would be a better place and he would be better off if I wasn't there. I was just doing a terrible job and I was miserable and I couldn't have any joy in any of the situations. I would fly off the handle at anything. I couldn't regulate any of my emotions. The way that we talk about it in trauma therapy is that everyone has this kind of window of tolerance or a river of emotions, and we always get things in our lives that raise the river or wash out the windows. But when your emotions spill out and you lose control of it, you you can have like visceral reactions and you can't control what's going on, and your ability to self-regulate completely goes out the window. And that was happening really frequently. So I was very lucky in that I got referred to the perinatal mental health clinic at Edinburgh, at the Royal in Edinburgh, where we had him, and essentially spent 18 months doing various types of therapy, from talking therapy to trauma memory processing. So when you have trauma, your brain doesn't store those memories as you would a normal event. Those memories kind of float around in your head. I wasn't sleeping because I was thinking about the constantly putting me on edge, which was constantly making that river close to the bank. So another mental stress, like your baby crying, you've had a bad night's sleep, poo explosion out and about, your husband putting a towel in the wrong place, just still those things. I know.
But also, I know, it also, they seem like minor footnotes now. In fact, I completely forgot about it until for some reason the other day. You also got made redundant on mat leave.
That happened.
2 months of having Lockie, and we were going to get kicked out of our flat if he was going to sell it.
Yeah, that happened to me.
But they just didn't even register with you because you were at capacity.
Yeah.
You were just sort of, your head was full, weren't they?
Yeah.
At that point.
And it's really hard to explain how it takes over your brain, how your ability to function as a normal human just completely disappears. And I remember my mum being there one evening, and they were going out for dinner or something, and something had happened that triggered me, and I just went into this rage. Couldn't be in the house. I needed to be out. I couldn't see. I was so pent up with these negative emotions. And I remember like curling up on the ball on the living room floor and just like screaming with tears because I didn't know what my body didn't know what else to do. It was scary what it did to me. Yeah,
I remember one evening, I couldn't tell you what time, I couldn't tell you when exactly it was or how old Lockie was, but it was definitely winter. It was sort of dark and wet. I came for a swim in an evening and I came out and it's dark, it's cold, it's sucking it down with rain. And Flo was just stood there holding Lockie, like basically both of them crying. I think he just had a skin suit on. I think you maybe just had like a hood over your head. And you were like, I don't know what to do. And I was like, okay. So we sort of tried to get you back. But it was pretty, one of those things that you don't realize it at the time because you're so focused on next speed, next job, next this, next that. You're so just like in the tunnel, aren't you? Your baby tunnel. That you don't get a chance to look up and realize how
ill I was.
How mad things are, yeah. How ill you were, how... Yeah, to the point where actually I've only really realised how bad things were in the last couple of months when we've had Rory. And it was absolutely nothing was comparable in the birth, apart from the obvious outcome. And it's been great. He's been feeding, he's wicked, he's happy. It's only now that you're like, that's what it's meant to be like. That's what it can be like.
Yeah.
You're like, Jesus, actually, that was really rough.
Yeah. And I think that's people feel this. If you're not like I'm not a real like overly emotional person. I feel like I get really super excited about lots of stuff. So I sort of felt like my response to having Lockie was, oh, I'm just like this. I didn't really put two and two together that I was actually really unwell. I was very fortunate to get support. And actually, on the lead up to having Rory, we've since moved out of Edinburgh. We're in the Borders now. Was offered some support by a really nice local charity called Nurture the Borders. He did some kind of pre-birth relaxation therapy with me, which was really, really helpful. But yeah, it was definitely present for me a lot during it. And I had some really strong opinions on what I wanted to have in terms of birth this time around. And was very grateful that my therapist I'd worked with for 18 months had helped me write an emotionally informed birth plan. I had this feeling of being out of control. To mitigate that, I needed to communicate if you need to do something to my body, I need to know what it is, what you're doing, what the outcome is, where that is, so that I have, and I needed someone to sort of sit down and write that out with me so that I wasn't emotionally involved in it. And it was really helpful. And the staff around when I had Rory had read it and picked up on it. And we ended up having an 11-hour laboured at home for most of it, got to hospital, was able to have a water birth, only gas and air. It was born within 2.5 hours of getting to hospital. But it felt healing that I had a calm experience.
We had it, as you probably well know from talking to Amy, like she obviously had a fairly horrific delivery with our miscarriage, and then had what turned out to be a fairly horrific C-section with Poppy, and then had a booked in elective C-section that she asked them if they'd started yet, and they said, we're about to pull him out. And she was like, oh, okay, cool. And as you say, it was just a really validating experience.
And it doesn't need to be a certain thing. It was just quite a feeling. It doesn't even need to be another birth. It just needs to be an experience that makes you feel,
what a marathon.
Big
like an actual, like it makes actual marathons pathetic in comparison. So, and this is why obviously spent a lot on this year talking about the challenge and what we're doing. People go, oh, wow, it's fantastic you're doing all these marathons. Really, and now we're 30 odd weeks in and sort of physically they're a bit more manageable. I really can say this. It's the running really sort of isn't the point anymore. So much about having these conversations and bringing these experiences to light, because I mean, just picking out a few things that you've said in the last 20 minutes or so, like the first thing you said was, we're aware that we haven't had a loss. We haven't lost a baby, which is such a, I think, common thing. We've had Amelia on a few weeks ago, who had a similar birth trauma story. I had my mate Charlie, who they went through a really not very pleasant sort of IVF journey, which ended very successfully. And it's very easy, I think, to look at this in the context of what happens to other people and go, who are we to feel anything? We don't deserve to be sad. We don't deserve to suggest that we've had these big problems, because actually look at what happened to them. And one of the things we have said so often on this podcast is that it's not a competition. You don't need to compare your experience to someone else's. Your experience can be shit and someone else's experience can be shit. There's no, and as you said, like, as you said, Flo, someone else could go through exactly the same 24 months that you went through and be absolutely fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
But to suggest, I think the thing that stood out really for me there was to suggest that you haven't experienced a loss. I don't think is necessarily true, because whilst yes, you have Lockie and he's fine and he's great and you love him to bits and it's very much with us, those first hours, days, weeks, months are, as you're probably now seeing with Rory, so it would seem, are incredibly special times, incredibly special moments, particularly for mum, their child, a seriously important period. And you lost that.
Yeah.
So yes, you still have a baby. You haven't lost a baby, but to say that you haven't experienced loss, I don't think is necessarily true. And that's why I think, I'm not sure. I said earlier that I think you were one of my first phone calls, but I don't think you were actually, because I think we'd initially I probably had thought you hadn't sprung to mind initially for me because you hadn't had a miscarriage or you hadn't lost. And I thought, actually, no, I remember it was really rough. And I think this was probably as I learned more about Tommy's actually, and the fact that it's not just a miscarriage charity. Like they get anything and everything that is from creating to welcoming to looking after a small person. Actually, I'm so pleased that you are involved, partly because it's great to have you involved, but also just because it is such an important insight into what can go wrong even when you think everything's gone right. Do you know what I mean?
You come out with a baby and people say that's the end goal. And actually, for us, it wasn't. I think it took me about 9 months to feel like a real love for my child.
Mm.
And people that don't go through trauma don't feel that. I know lots of first-time dads sort of say, well, the first few months is quite difficult to bond with a baby because you're not doing as much, and especially if the baby's breastfed. But it's quite unusual for a mum to say, I've just kept that baby alive. And you didn't really feel anything about it. And not unusual. I mean, so many people go through it, but it's not the thing that people talk about. Trauma comes out in multiple ways. People get diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety. This browse into postnatal psychosis, and that is a whole kettle of fish I don't know very much about at all, but that can be seriously problematic for people. The baby blues is not normal. That's a horrible phrase that shouldn't be used. You should have the opportunity to feel happy and healthy after you have a baby, mentally and physically.
You said, Flo, that it took quite a long time. You spoke about sort of your PND and PTSD diagnoses, and that it took quite a long time to get to that point. How long was that, and what got you there, I guess?
So I was offered some kind of group CBT therapy when Lockie was,
I think that was like 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, maybe 3 or 4 months. And I couldn't complete the sessions because I found them too stressful. I'd like click off in floods of tears because the what you're talking about was too close to the bone. And the clinician phoned me afterwards and said, I noticed you dropped off, are you all right? Which I thought was amazing. Still do. And I said, no, I couldn't handle some of that type of conversation. Lots of other people sharing their traumatic stories, which are all very different, but it was just too much. And she referred me in for a birth reflection clinic with a senior midwife and a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
It's quite unusual. And we went through everything, and there was obviously mistakes and stuff. And then she said, I think you should come in for some one-to-one therapy. So we did some work around how I was feeling on this, lots of indexes and forms and stuff. And at the end of a couple of sessions, she said, from what I've observed, you've got clinical levels of PTSD and postnatal depression. Go and speak to your GP, firstly. And secondly, let's work on a plan together. So I ended up in therapy for about a year. And it was every 1 to 2 weeks, going up for a session. And we did talking therapy. And we did a lot of that. You're obviously at our wedding, but we did a lot of that on the run up to our wedding. And then after, because that was a big event, after the wedding, we started doing, it's called rapid eye movement reprocessing. And it's a technique where you run through memories and associations. And for some reason, following a stimulus and your eyes moving rapidly helps your brain file away those memories into an order that makes sense. It sounds mental, but it's really successful with single incident traumatic events, like a birth trauma and an accident.
Again, this is a rabbit hole. Your REM sleep time is the time when you dream, isn't it? So I guess it's that is when things that aren't actually happening can seem to be really vivid, or then as you start to wake up, things that are happening in the room get enhanced, and that's when weird stuff really happens, is in that sort of semi-conscious bit. So I guess they need to get you there to try and sort of make sense.
That's the really
Luckily, I don't think we have many psychiatric experts that listen to this, but if they do, they're probably going to slaughter me.
This
is where the disclaimer in the show notes of this is not a medical podcast.
Please don't follow any. It's given apart from seek other advice.
Olly hasn't got a clue what he's talking about.
The service that you were on in Edinburgh is fantastic, because once you're on, it isn't that you're on this for 6 weeks, you're on this for 8 weeks. It's you're on it until it's reached its course, basically. So you be on it for
essential.
Which means it can be quite hard to get on, obviously, because
capacity.
Because of capacity. But it means once you're on, Kirsten was the name of Flo's therapist. Kirsten would have been there for forever and a day, wouldn't she? Which is just
Yeah.
exactly what you needed in the back of your head, was not having a clock running, so to speak, or I need to be better in
Yeah.
3 weeks, or, you know, whatever it might be.
And there obviously was a huge urgency to getting some help in these early stages because of how low I was and the self-harming and that sort of stuff. But once we'd got into a better state of mood, being able to process some of that stuff was really important. And actually, full circle, I had my final session with her the week I found out I was pregnant with Rory. So I was able to tell her, but
So that also meant that she then helped you with your birth plan and all that sort of stuff, you know.
yeah, it's a tough topic and it affects a lot of people. And I think people don't know about it as much, and there's lots of help available. Obviously, Tommy's is doing some stuff, and there's another couple of charities that.
It's, yeah, I mean, charities are great, and we say it every week, but this is probably an area where there are charities who are very specialized in postnatal depression and PTSD, but it is something that Tommy's cover, and they, you know, if you rang Tommy's up and said, I'm struggling with this, they would either help you or get you to the right place. And so, yes, if anyone's listening and they want to help with these sorts of causes, please do visit www.marathonsmiracles.com and click on the big pink donate now button and send us all your money. But it actually sounds like, because I know mental health services in general, under pressure is probably the euphemistic way of putting it. So for you to have, it's probably double-edged actually, isn't it? For you to have had access to that was great. It sounds like you were ultimately, once you got to that point, very well looked after, although probably on the other side is an indicator of just how unwell you were. Because if you were a bit baby blues, as you hesitate to say it, but then maybe you wouldn't have got anywhere near that sort of stuff. So it is double-edged. And you were in Scotland, which I don't know how different the NHS in Scotland is. I'm sure it's exactly the same as in England, where you go from one trust to the next.
Annoyingly, they're two separate entities, England and Scotland, the NHS.
Yeah, no, of course.
Very annoying. If we go down south, then we got no record of your children.
Yeah.
I think it's,
but again, in the same way that if you go from trust to trust in England,
I think
one thing one way and one thing the next. I'm sure there's rules in Scotland that for some things they do it a lot better, and for some things they do it a lot worse.
I think we got lucky because we live really rurally now. We had a choice of where we could go and what services we could use when it came to birth. Like, we could have gone back to Edinburgh to the Royal, but I don't think I could have gone there. So we ended up going to the Borders Hospital in Melrose, which is a much smaller hospital, really small maternity ward. They're linked up with health visiting, and it was just a much nicer experience. Every hospital was an hour from us. So
surely there's just like, is there not just like a decent vet?
It's the amount of people that have made that comment.
While you're out doing some lambing.
I can birth the sheep. I can birth a Rory. It'll be fine.
Yeah, the amount of people that have gone, can you not just set up in a sheep shed?
What's his surname? Campbell? God, we know what to do with them around here.
Yeah, another one. Not more of them. Yeah. It's a joy of living rurally.
Yeah. The other sort of obvious bit to talk about is, you said it was quite a nice full circle moment with Kirsten, did you say? Yes. That you sort of had your last session with her as you found out you were pregnant.
Yeah.
I have a bit of insight into this because of, as I mentioned, with Amy's C-section and then that subsequent pregnancy with Rupert. Firstly, how did you ever come to the decision that you wanted to have another one?
There's a reason there's 3 years between them.
Say that again, sorry.
There's a reason there's 3 years between them.
Yeah.
It took a long time to be mentally ready. I think the driving factor was that we didn't want Lockie to be an only child. We wanted him to, we've both got siblings. We've both got on with our siblings really well. They drove us nuts at times, but we wanted that relationship for Lockie. Which meant kind of ignoring me a little bit in it, but also making sure we had a long enough gap that I had time to recover. We didn't quite.
Well done. That is absolutely incredible. Like, genuinely, Like,
Thank you.
to have been where you were for 2 years, essentially, and to be able to come out the other side and go, let's do that again,
Let's go again.
is absolutely phenomenal. And I've
We clung on.
said a few times on this podcast that the ultimate conclusion of this year is that women are better than blokes, like hands down. And I think if we needed a nail to put in that coffin, I think this is probably it. Like, hats off to you. That's amazing.
I think we clung on to facts, and this goes for everybody in that every pregnancy and childbirth is different. It might not be better, it might not be worse, but it will be a different experience. And you're not going to have exactly the same experience twice. So although that can be scary because you don't know what it looks like, it will be different to what happened before. So you may not arrive with the same output from that. Like, not having the mental health issues and whatever comes after that.
Joe, what's your reflection on the whole 2 years? I know we'll avoid the temptation to downplay our role in it because that's what we're trained to do, but like, play up your role in it for 5 minutes. And like, how difficult was it?
I didn't really know until like probably a month ago how difficult it was. You know, when I say that, I'm talking specifically about, you know, again, talking about Rory coming along and then realizing what it could be like. I had no idea. I just thought, okay, this is what it's like. This is what we've got to do. Let's get cracking on, basically. I'm quite a fairly practical guy anyway, so it was always right, next theme, next this, next that. I think there were probably a couple of indicators for me that the mental load had really crept up. One was my stag do. So we're in that 2 years, we obviously getting married, and my stag do, my best man came up to stay with us for the night, and then in the morning start again. They didn't tell me what we were doing. We had a lovely weekend. We went camping in Loch Lomond. It was the most PG, lovely outsidey time biz weekend ever, but it was a secret, right? And I couldn't handle that. Absolutely could not handle the fact that I guess what had happened is, in the background, I crept into having to know and be on top of everything, because I didn't know what sort of state Flo was in that day and whether or not Flo would remember to do bottles, if Flo had fed him, if he was in the right clothes, had the wash been on, had Flo eaten, had the dog been out, had blah, 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 to the point where that had crept in so that I felt the need to know absolutely every detail and be in charge of every detail, because there was just no sense, you know, in order to make sure it happened. And again, this is entirely from a practical perspective, because I'm just not, it's just the way I'm wired, I guess, is more practical than the emotional side of it. So then when my best man turned up and, you know, stayed overnight for, and then the next morning sort of wakes me up at the crack of dawn to start playing silly antics and trying to put makeup on me and get me dressed and all that usual stuff, I no comprehend it. I couldn't handle it, mate. Could not handle it. I was like, absolutely not. It's way out of order. Where are we going? Why are we going? Where is everyone? How are we getting there? I don't think you thought about this. I don't think you thought about this. I just completely lost the ability to enjoy anything, basically, and was just so buried in next practical element, so on, so on, so on. But I just couldn't comprehend.
Lockie's about a year old, isn't
Yeah, he would have just been over, just over a year. So, and it obviously built up bit by bit to that point where, and I to be blunt, mate, I still really struggle to enjoy things, you know. And again, it's taken a pretty large kick up the backside from a second baby to just be like, I need time. Like, look at this. How good is it? You know, and in that meantime, we've had some huge life milestones. You know, we've moved out and bought a farm in the hills. We've had some amazing things happen, and I've just completely lost the ability to enjoy it. And now, you know, I hear Flo all the time, not all the time, but pick me up for being always looking for the negative in something, because I was just used to, had to presume that I was the only one mentally functioning, to be blunt about it. Whereas I'm obviously not. You know, Flo's absolutely doing it. And like around actual birth, this as in with Rory, I was so fucking on top of it, mate, and so good. He didn't even tell us he'd gone into labour. And it was a real like glass shattering moment. You know, it was like, there are now 2 of us in this fight. And the one that's just joined is actually really good at this. So I'll just drive when I'm told to drive.
In like
basically.
late stages of labour in a birth pool, and he's trying to chat to me about everything. And I actually at one point got my hand in his face and was like, stop. And I had the midwife say, she's in the zone, she maybe doesn't want to chat.
Yeah.
We'll come on to running, I'm sure, in a few minutes, but I've always run. I just always have. It works wonders for me mentally. I find if I don't do it, I don't sleep as well, eat as well. I'm just not quite at 100%, basically. And I found, relating back to the swimming point I was making earlier, I found I couldn't run further than 10 minutes from the house. There was always the chance, and it happened a few times, where I would get a call from Flo and have to be back then. You know, not knowing what the state she was in, or Lockie was in, or the rest of it, which meant that actually running wise, I couldn't just take off for a few hours and leave my phone on, on the bedside table or whatever. So we had a park at the end of our road, so I would just run laps of this little park, and it would just have the absolute opposite effect. So I ended up basically parking, running, and in order to do some form of exercise, I could go to the gym down the bottom of the road, meaning, again, because I could have my phone there to do something, but I could always be home in a couple of minutes. And I need to run. I need to be outside, and just mentally, again, that would just chipped away a little bit.
But this time around, I've been training for a marathon.
Yeah.
With you.
Nice, mate. Yeah, so I've not had that luxury this time.
You're welcome.
So yeah, I've been out on the hills for 4 hours at a time with no phone signal.
The big thing I pick out there, Jo, and it's something I wrote down earlier, but you've reminded me to say it, and it's so comparable to every other conversation we've had. It's that idea of just getting in the process and being so in the process. And we've spoken about it with people who have gone through IVF, gone through recurrent loss, have gone through late pregnancy loss. You deal with that by, okay, well, we've had another miscarriage, so we need to wait a month, and then we need to do this, and then we need to start taking ovulation tests again, and it's just process, and it's now, and you're in it, and you can't get out of it until something snaps the band, right? And whether that be you, Flo, with I need to keep the baby alive because I'm not, probably some sort of instinct, societal pressure to not let a baby die, like whatever it is, it's okay. I'm in this, and the same with you, Jo. It sounds like
but it was really weird.
Okay, I need to make sure we've got this. I need to make sure we've got this, and it's interesting, if that's the word, to hear you talk about it, because it's what everyone we've spoken to this year has said.
Yeah. It's weird that it happens through so many different types of journey as well.
Yeah.
But it's the same. It was really strange. I always knew Lockie was going to be okay because he had all these people around him and the medical professionals, and I always knew he was going to be fine. But I would get severe anxiety about the dog. No one else really gives a damn about your dog today. People care about your children, but most people don't really care about your dog. We went away and forgot his lead, and Jo tied a bit of bathing twine around him. For a walk. And I sat in the car and had a panic attack when he was going to hit by a car.
We were in the middle of nowhere. We were in the Highlands. And our dog is the most low maintenance animal on the planet. He's not going to bolt. He's not going to anything. But you would get really stressed about
really stressed about him.
Yeah.
Whereas I always knew the baby would be fine. Weird how my brain works.
Also, the other thing that was I guess probably a warning sign that we should have picked up on was that because we were so in the process, because we were just getting pent up and just ignoring it. If there ever was a slight release, that a few drinks or whatever, then it would be very hard to put the lid back on the valve, so to speak. Yeah, we'd end up, I don't know, falling out, or one of us getting really drunk, or whatever. Yeah, it'd be really hard to contain or just have a bit of fun. It would. You a bit of pressure release, and it's
especially because I think lots of mums especially go through this kind of feeling like they can't take time for themselves when they've got a little baby.
Mm.
Even now, and I'm like meant to be very stable with Rory, I can't take 4 hours to go for a run because he needs feeding, or in that 4 hours I'll be in agony.
Yeah.
So even though I feel like I could can't, which puts extra
If
stress.
it's any consolation, running for 4 hours isn't that fun. Like an hour would be fine.
Yeah.
45 minutes would be cool.
4 hours, not. That's the thing is he likes going out for 4 hours.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
I know what he's like. He's actually out now as we speak. She's doing she's got
Training.
two more. This is her penultimate long run before she does the half in Norfolk.
Oh, hey.
So she's doing 17k tonight, I think.
Oh, good for her.
The longest she's ever run in her life. So she'll be the door will go in a minute.
And the fact that you have got 2 children sleeping and they're doing this. You've smashed it this evening.
They're good at sleep, like their dad. If you look back on those 2 years and were able to offer some advice to someone else who might be listening, who might be there now, what would it be? I guess probably one from each of you, because I think they're probably very different.
Yeah. What would I say? It was one thing. It's really important that you are fine as well as the baby. Whatever you need to do, whether that be therapy, drugs, yoga, stopping breastfeeding.
Certain types of drugs, I assume.
Yeah, sorry. I meant like prescription drugs. Don't take.
Well,
no, don't do drugs. It's really important that you are fine as well as your baby. What I would say.
yeah.
What would you say? Make sure you hang your towel in the right place.
Yeah, crikey me. I think I would just, if I was to speak to myself 2 years ago, I would tell myself that at some point you're going to love this. There is a time where you will enjoy, where emotion will be allowed to enter the picture, and it will be a huge wave of positive emotion. And it isn't always like this. It will get better, and it will be fucking amazing when it is better. Not just at some point it will stop being rubbish, but it will be incredible.
For you, Joe, Flo's mentioned that sort of numb sensation that you had and how you really struggled to bond with Lockie at all for the first like nine months plus.
Yeah.
You didn't have that trauma, Joe. You didn't have that depression.
No.
You were able to, did you sort of, I don't know, catch moments where it was just you and Lockie and it was great? Or was it like, I can't enjoy this because I know Flo isn't, so I feel guilty? Or like how?
There definitely was early on for sure, because it went in a bit of a, an inverse bell curve.
Sure.
Because it took us ages to figure out that there was anything wrong. So in the first 3 months, we were heavily bottle feeding, so I was doing a fair bit of that.
He was also off work, which was
I had
nice.
6 months paternity, which was incredible. And it was an actual summer, so I was
we watched so much cricket.
Lockie on my chest, feeding the bottle. I had a fair bit of time, me and Lockie. And so definitely. And then we realized that actually we were on a trajectory here. This wasn't an immediate dip, but Flo's mental state was on a straight line trajectory. And at that point, the sort of dynamic shifts into the back of your mind. You then think, while you sat there, with baby on chest, you're sat thinking, okay, where is Flo? What's she doing? What's in the fridge? Has she eaten today? All the points that I previously made. But that first 2-3 months, while I think that actually Flo and I are in a similar state, or there was a huge lag in cottoning on that anything was a problem with that problem. In that time, yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. And then insert cliche dad point, they come a lot more fun when they want to play with the ball, basically. And he knows what a full ball is, he knows what a cricket bat is, and blah, blah, blah.
Which for Lockie was as soon as he could stand up.
Yeah.
And then it's like player 2's back in the game, basically.
He was on a scooter before he could, like a little scooter thing before he could walk.
Yeah.
That boy.
So yeah, there were, but then there was a lengthy period in between those two bits where it was in the tunnel,
Yeah.
basically.
So running,
Yes.
does that help? Is that how you get out of the tunnel?
100%. Massively, massively. I mean, everybody's got their thing, right? Whether it's being outside, whether it's hanging out with friends, whether it's, going to the pub, whatever. I just love running and riding my bike and just generally being outside. So yeah, for sure. For sure. I find it makes me process things better, eat, sleep better, all of the above. Yeah, mate, so you've given us something to train for, so you a lot for providing a bit of routine and
I have to say, it's significantly easier than the Keltman training, though. That was intense.
that was just time intensive, wasn't it? That was just very time intensive. But
it's noticeable for me as well. I'm sure you notice it with a couple as well. When the person that you're with isn't having those outlets of things that are important to them, how, like, to be polite, grumpy they get.
I've said it a few times on other episodes. It doesn't happen so much this year, but in previous years, sort of come downstairs from work and be in the kitchen for about 5 minutes before Amy basically hands me my trainers.
yeah, you need to go.
The house.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm desperate to get back in the water swimming because we live right by a reservoir, and I get back straight back in. But haven't swum through pregnancy because of previous experience. And then literally was ready to get back in the water, and a sign went up to say, "We found high levels of cyanobacteria in the water." The greenhouse.
Yeah.
There's literally a 3-minute walk from my front door.
Yeah, and we mentioned we've recently moved out to the hills over a year ago, so that's been great as well. That's been great for getting out.
Rumour has it, Joe, it's the only reason you moved there.
Well, I can neither confirm or deny.
The lack of people and the fact that we're surrounded by 3 quite steep hills.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get back from, nursery or whatever, and you go, "Where's Daddy?" And you can see him running up and down.
There he is.
The gully.
His little shadow bobbing along the top.
There he is, up there.
It's really cool. We've not been up to visit you guys yet, which we must. But I mean, this year is
enjoy the sunshine as well. I would say.
There's a reason. Yeah, there's a reason it's quite damp here, and there's a massive reservoir.
And I guess worth mentioning as well, that is the elephant in the room. We've had a couple of elephants in the room on this challenge. We are running this weekend in Westmorland, which is the other Cumbria from Cumberland that we did a couple of weeks ago, which is not where you live, but that's because you live in Scotland, and there is not pub quiz. Remember this one? There are no English counties in Scotland. So we had to go as close as we could. So that's why Joe's doing Westmorland. That, and there are lots of hills in the lakes, and I wanted to run up and down some of them, and I've said throughout this challenge that we've always been looking for a very specific breed, i.e. has lost baby or experienced pregnancy issue of some kind and is prepared to run a marathon, and very much looking forward to it. And you're going to be the most willing partner in crime that I think we've had, apart from maybe Tommy Morland.
Maybe Tommy, I was going to say Tommy Morland.
Although Tommy was slightly less willing than he would normally be because he had a hernia in his groin. You might get the title just purely on the basis of that. Normally, no one would ever beat Tommy Morland into most willing participant.
No. I feel very lucky that you've given me either this one or the Cumberland one, the least running, basically, that I could possibly get away with and following
this. I mean, the original plan was, because I'd always had in mind that we were going to do Scarfell Pike. For one of the runs, and I sort of had that earmarked for you, and then
you don't know, you
spoke to Charlie. Who was on the Cumberland leg and was like, Scarfell Pike's in Cumberland, not Westmorland.
What are you doing for your Westmorland one?
So we pivoted, and I actually have put the route together for Saturday, and it's
a banger.
It is a beast. I'm sure we were talking about some of the stuff that you've got planned, and you've done hillier, I'm sure, but by my standards, this is a beast. About 2,100 meters of climbing, which, for context, the run in Somerset that nearly killed me was 1,400. and Scarfell was nearly 12, I think. So we're basically doubling Scarfell.
After running. After running. You know? After running.
This is
It'll be brutal. No, I'm going for a walk in the lakes this weekend. No, it looks a cracker of a route. I think it's we were saying before we started, right? That I don't think either of us have done Helvellyn before or any of the hills we're going up. So it looks pretty good. And Stride and Edge is meant to be pretty good. So yeah, mate. And the weather's, touch wood, looking like it's going to be about spot on.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, we had pretty much the same forecast when we were there, whatever it was, a month ago.
A few weeks ago, yeah, mate. It's going to be nice. It'll be a nice day in the hills. Little trot round and little ice cream at the finish. Yeah, it should be good.
My dad sent me an article on Saturday afternoon that he found in the paper, which was having an ice cream in every county of England.
Why didn't you just do that?
That is next year. That's what we're on next year.
Sounds so much nicer.
Amy, very quickly, by her standards, I must say, said, well, we can call it Magnums for Miracles, which...
Very good.
We've got this all wrong.
Other ice lollies are available. Yeah, it'd be nice. I mean, yeah, we live on a hill farm, so we spend a lot of time going up and down, but these are all very grassy lumps here, sort of 700, 800 meters, but we live at 300.
Yeah.
So I'd have to do quite a lot of reps to get in the same amount of time that we're going to get this weekend. It'd be nice to see some jagged edges and try and hang on to your coattails, mate, basically, because you've had a 33-week pre-season or whatever it's going to be.
Yeah. No, well, as I said, there's some mileage in the legs, but there's not a huge amount of climbing. And I'm a boy from the Fens by birth. Not a lot of hills around there. So, but I've really, the hilly ones I've done, like even Somerset, which I didn't come out the other side of particularly well, like it was fun while it lasted. Like it was stunning being in the hills and going up and down.
1,400 meters
a couple of weeks ago
that
was it. I think the high point was 320 meters.
Right.
So we just went up or down for 7 hours. There was no flats at all. And it was savage. And it was a hot day and all the rest. Yeah.
Are you actually looking forward to this weekend, or are you sort of?
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I know it's going to be hard, but I've got a couple of building blocks in the old evidence wall now from this year to say, it's like we can do it, and top squad as well. So
we shall see, mate. We shall see.
Fine.
What's your nutrition strategy? It must be pretty honed by now.
My nutrition strategy these days, it started off pretty pro. I'd found this guy who's an ultra runner over in America who's been sponsored by this company called Hyperlite. And so I'd shipped this stuff in from America and had it for the first few weeks, and then realized that it was just quite unenjoyable, sweet liquid that you're just sucking through a straw for 4 hours. So now I like to have a backpack full of water. I like squashies. I like fruit pastels. I like ready salted Walker's crisps.
Yeah.
And if it's a longer day out, I like to find myself a sausage roll at some point.
Yeah, it's welcome along.
When we used to do our big cycling holidays, ham sandwiches were mine.
Yeah.
I used to have cling film wraps of ham sandwiches in my jersey pockets.
It's all you need. Shock. What's your nutrition strategy? Food.
Yeah.
I eat food.
And water.
Yeah. Food and water.
Really, yeah. What are you going to do? I'm going to run and eat.
Yeah. What brand of gels do you use, Ollie? Fruit pastels. Thanks. I like to chew things. Yeah. So, yeah, really looking forward to it. Thank you very much for your time this evening, and for going back into what was clearly not a very nice place. As ever, sorry that it happened. I'm so pleased that you are where you are now, but it doesn't make those 2 years any easier. And I'm really grateful to anyone, but this evening, you guys, for going back there and sharing your thoughts, because hopefully someone else will listen and they will see some light. So yeah, thanks so much. And I'm really looking forward to firstly just seeing you all at the weekend and meeting Rory, and also
Seeing how
going
big
for a jog.
3-year-old is now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right over there.
Yeah. The dog will be hiding.
Yeah, fantastic. Right, thanks very much. We'll see you on Saturday.
Bye.
Cheers, mate. See you in a bit.
Bye.